What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We had some second round matches wrap up for the Rome Masters. We're going to take a look at some of our third round picks for the bottom half of the draw. Let's take a look at the draw. Here's a look at Djokovic's quarter. First match we're going to talk about is Musetti against Cerundolo. And let's talk about their matches that they played to get here. We had Musetti taking out Pericard, and we knew this was going to be a little bit of a tricky matchup given Pericard's serving ability. And Musetti able to get a break a little bit early towards the middle of the first set. He was able to ride that out. Had a tough game at, I believe it was 4-3, or maybe it was 3-2. Had a tough service game there where Pericard really put a lot in to try to get a break there. Wasn't able to do it. Musetti holds the next few games to hold on to a 6-4 win. And the one thing I really liked from Musetti was obviously, we know the Pericard backhand is extremely weak. We know that that's going to be a target, and so does he. He knows that you're going to come in and target his backhand as the weaker side. So he has a pretty good inside-out forehand, and when he knows you're going to the backhand, he's just going to move out there. What Musetti did really well was being able to just move him around a lot more and open up that backhand side so the target area wasn't this small sliver of space, but almost a third of the court for him to hit two and know that Pericard was going to hit a backhand. Now every offensive shot that Musetti got, the majority of those shots were going right into that backhand, forcing Pericard, asking Pericard to hit a winner off of those, and the majority of the time he was not able to convert. I liked what I saw from Musetti. Obviously, he didn't have to play too top notch of tennis. I was a little bit impressed by Pericard. I thought his movement looked pretty good given the fact that Musetti was kind of running him around a little bit. And then in the second set, Musetti gets up an early break, and you kind of feel like, oh, this is going to be it. It's probably going to be like a 6-2 for Musetti. But Pericard's able to break right back. And then we finally see Musetti get another break at 3-all, I believe, and then be able to hold on to win 6-4 in the second set. A nice win for him to get through there. Cerundolo, on the other hand, able to take out Tabilo, and this was a very impressive win for Cerundolo, especially the first set. There were a lot of close games, a lot of deuce games, and Cerundolo able to prevail in all of them. That just shows you how much confidence he had hitting his forehand against the Tabilo ground strokes. Tabilo just not really many answers. Yes, I think towards the end of the first set and into the second set, we saw Tabilo try to press a little bit more, a little bit too much, which brought in a lot more unforced errors. But at the beginning of the match, I really felt like a lot of this was Cerundolo just taking it to Tabilo with his forehand, dictating most of these points. So really nice win for Cerundolo. He gets through 6-0, 6-2. Now looking at this head-to-head, it is 2-2 for these two guys. Let's go through all of their matches here. Musetti winning the first two matchups on the clay. It was a challenger in 2020, 6-3, 6-0 win for Musetti. Then a semifinal in Hamburg, 6-3, 7-6 win for Musetti. Then in Umag, they played a tough three-setter where Cerundolo was able to prevail 2-6, 6-4, 7-6. And then they played on the indoor hard courts during Davis Cup with Cerundolo winning 6-4, 6-1. And a nice win there for Cerundolo on the indoor hard courts. Cerundolo's coming in. He's 13-5 on the clay. 21-11 last year, 21-13 the year before. He's coming off a tough loss to Alexander Blockx last week. And honestly, guys, I liked what I saw from Cerundolo today. Cerundolo. I thought he was moving very well. And I think that's going to be very important against a guy like Musetti. Today was probably the best I've seen Cerundolo move on the clay this year. I know he's been struggling on and off with that back, so obviously that might hamper the movement a little bit, but today I was very impressed with how quick he was and how he was able to find the forehand most of the time. Musetti, on the other hand, coming in, he's 5-3 on the clay this year, 19-4 last year, 18-10 the year before. Obviously, we talk about Musetti's clay court season last year was definitely one to remember for him. Musetti coming off a tough 6-3, 6-3 loss to Lehecka in Madrid. He was able to beat Griekspoor and Hurkacz, but once he got pushed by Lehecka, he really didn't have much. Remember, Musetti also lost to Arthur Fee 6-3, 6-4 in Barcelona. And Cerundolo having that tough 3-set loss to Zverev in Munich. This one's going to be really tricky because, in my opinion, I think for both of these guys, this is a must-win match. I think whoever wins this is definitely going to take a lot of confidence with them. Both guys, don't even look at the seeds. Yes, I know Cerundolo's 25, but both of these guys are really top 10, maybe top 15 players on the clay. Cerundolo's got a great clay court game. And it's kind of funny, we look at the matchup here. You have two massive forehands going up against each other. We have the Musetti touch and volleys. Musetti obviously going to need to be able to defend a little bit more, a little bit better on that backhand side if he's going to be able to win this match. I mean, there's not much separating these guys, and it's going to be really hard for me to pick. I'm going to lean towards Cerundolo here. And I know Musetti's been playing better, but we still haven't seen great results from him. And I really was impressed with how Cerundolo moved. And for him to take out Tabilo like that, also an extremely impressive win. Sorry, I'm just thinking, because Musetti, obviously in Rome, he is an Italian player, so maybe that's going to factor in as well here. We know the Italian crowd has been really loud, very boisterous during some of these matches. I'm still going to stick with Cerundolo, guys. I think this is going to be a nice match for both guys and a barometer going into the French Open. Both these guys need the win over the other guy. Musetti only 8 matches on the clay this year, so he's a little bit newer on the clay. 19-4 the year before because he was making so many deep runs in this tournament. Cerundolo 13-5 this year. He was able to play some matches over in South America as well. Musetti in Rome is 12-6. He was able to make it to the semifinals last year, losing to Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets. In 2024, he lost to Terence Altman by retirement, and in 2023, he lost in the 4th round to Tsitsipas. Let's take a look at how Cerundolo has fared here. He's 8-4. Last year, made it out to the quarterfinals, losing to Sinner in straights. Lost in 2024 to Khachanov in straights, and then lost in the quarters again in 2023. So obviously, as of late, it seems like Cerundolo's been having the better Rome tournament. I'm going to pick Cerundolo. I think this is going to be a 3-setter here, but give me Cerundolo to advance in 3. Next match we're going to talk about is Casper Ruud taking on Yuri Lehecka. And guys, I know the seedings are a little bit separated between these first 2 matchups, but I mean, these are some really solid clay court matchups. I can't believe we're getting these in the round of 32. These guys over the last few years have been all solid clay court players. Casper Ruud able to get through Zach Svajda, and you guys know I'm a big Zach Svajda fan. I think he's going to have a great grass court season, but clay is just not his surface. He really does struggle to move out there. There was a lot of hesitation today. We saw a lot of double faults, a lot of mistakes from Svajda, and even if he was going to try and push, maybe even to get a set off of Ruud, he needed to be perfect, and today he just was not. A great showing from Ruud, able to really keep the pressure on Svajda, never really let him breathe there. Pressure from that forehand. 6-1, 6-3, he advances into the round of 32. The next match was Lehecka against Struff, and this match was very close, back and forth. Lehecka able to get a tough win in that tie break. But Struve did have plenty of chances in that first set to really take it, and he played extremely well. I was surprised. A lot of longer rallies, a lot of rallies where we saw Struve dominating some shots over Lehecka, and this was very impressive. Lehecka able to manage taking some of these body blows, and then the rain came in at 4-3 for Lehecka, and it felt like when Struve came back out, it was only like a 30-minute, maybe it was an hour delay. It wasn't that long, but it felt like when Struve came back out, he seemed extremely tight, not nervous. He looked like his back maybe had tightened up or something. The serve looked stiff, the volleys and the forehand looked stiff, and we saw a few more errors, and he was a little bit more uncomfortable there, and Lehecka able to just win the next two games to get out of there safely. So nice win for Lehecka, 7-6, 6-3. Not sure if that would have come to fruition had they not had the rain delay. So might want to keep our eye on that potential rematch for Struve and Lehecka, even if it's on a different surface. I think Struve kind of feels like he's right there with him, so we definitely might want to keep an eye out for that the next time they meet. Looking at this head-to-head here for Ruud and Lehecka, it is 2-0 for Casper Ruud. He has never lost a set to Lehecka. Beat him in 2022 in Gstaad on the clay 6-3, 6-4. Then was able to win in 2023 in Toronto 7-6, 6-4. Lehecka coming in, he's 6-2 on the clay, 5-5 last year, 4-1 the year before. Ruud, on the other hand, is also 6-2 on the clay, 14-5 last year, 24-7 the year before. Ruud coming off a tough loss to Alexander Blockx in the quarterfinals of Madrid. Obviously, a big-time opportunity for him. He was the defending champion, so he lost a bunch of points, but he had a big opportunity against Alexander Blockx, who's ranked outside the top 50, I believe. Maybe he's inside the top 50 now after that result, but to get into the semifinals, I mean, that's probably a guy that you would feel like you'd be okay playing. But Blockx just played amazing, and Ruud kind of a little bit exhausted from that Tsitsipas win the round before. That was all breakers in 3 sets for Casper Ruud. Lehecka coming off a quarterfinal loss to Arthur Fils, who has been playing phenomenal tennis. Arthur Fils remained undefeated after beating Lehecka, but went on to the semifinals to lose to Jannik Sinner, another very tough clay quarter this year. Lehecka was able to notch a nice win over Musetti, 6-3, 6-3, in 2 very convincing sets. He just dominated Musetti, and Musetti just denied Musetti a lot of break points, and that to me was extremely important. How Lehecka was able to play a lot of the bigger points smarter than a guy like Musetti, who we saw had an amazing season last year. You know, I feel like this is a big time opportunity here for Casper Ruud, guys, especially with that 2-0 head to head. You know, here's a chance for him. He's playing a guy who he's beaten before, who he's comfortable against, and he has a huge opportunity to get out to the round of 16. Might face Cerundolo, might face Musetti. This is a really tricky one here for me. You have 2 losses for Casper Ruud. One was to Alexander Blockx in Madrid. One was to Felix Auger-Aliassime by retirement in Monte Carlo. And then Lehecka with 2 losses himself. One to Alexander Bublik and one to Arthur Fils. Both these guys have been playing some decent clay court tennis. I do feel like the Casper Ruud level maybe has dipped a little bit, and I love what I've been seeing from Yuri Lehecka. I feel like in Miami, I know Miami hardcore, but he had a great run there, making it out to the finals, losing a tough match to Sinner 6-4, 6-4. Has some chances to win that second set, to potentially maybe break and hold out for that second set. Then he comes onto the clay, 3rd round loss in Monte Carlo, quarterfinal loss in Madrid. Now he's facing probably his toughest opponent here. I'm going to go with Lehecka to win here, guys. I know that feels a little bit chalky, and I just feel like he's playing the better tennis right now. I haven't been too impressed from Casper Ruud yet. I do know this court is playing very slow, which I feel like might favor Lehecka is going to be able to get around and hit that forehand a little bit more, he might be able to hit through the court a little bit faster, where Casper Ruud likes kind of like the higher, faster bouncing courts like Madrid, where he was able to win because he can generate those RPMs on that forehand. Let's take a look at how these guys have done here in the past in Rome. We have Casper Ruud's 18-6. He's made 3 semifinals, 1 quarterfinal last year. So last year he lost to Sinner 6-0, 6-1. And in 2023 he was able to make. In 2024 he lost in the second round. In 2023 he made the semifinals, losing to Holger Rune in 3 sets. And then made another semifinal, losing to Djokovic in straights. Let's take a look at how Lehecka has done here. And, obviously we remember Lehecka was coming off a bit of an injury. Last year, a first-round loss to Mueller, and the year before, a first-round loss to Marijan. So this is his first win in Rome over Struff. Oof, this just makes it so much harder. We're in uncharted territory for Lehecka, and now he's going up against a guy that's got 3 semifinals. I can't trust Casper Ruud, guys. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I like the way that Lehecka's been playing. I like the aggression that he has. So I'm gonna go with Lehecka. I think it's gonna be another 3-setter. We're gonna get some really good matches here, guys. Give me Lehecka in 3. Next match is Khachanov against Bublik van Zandschulp. Khachanov able to get through Shevchenko 6-4, 6-4, and this was a pretty impressive match from him. Khachanov able to dictate a little bit with that forehand, really put Shevchenko on his back foot, but overall, I didn't think the tennis was strong from either of these guys. I thought, Khachanov did what he had to do, found his offense. Shevchenko just didn't really provide much resistance there, but good win for Khachanov, at least to kind of get going on the clay season. And Bublik van Zandschulp able to get a nice win over Kovacevic, and Rinderknecht pulled out last minute, and that's why we see Kova in this draw. Obviously, it wasn't Kova getting the bye to play Bublik. It was Rinderknecht, and we saw him have a tough calf injury in his previous tournament where he had to underhand serve, really struggled to move, had to retire before the match was over. Now we see him out in this tournament, and it was a last-minute withdrawal. So that tells me a couple things. Number one, he's probably close to recovery where he should be okay to go for the French Open. But number two, obviously not strong enough yet to play at the level that he wants. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks he's going to be able to get going. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw Rinderknecht play one of the tournaments next week, just to maybe stay a little bit sharp on the clay. You don't want to go into Roland Garros, a 3 and a 5 set match, having played your last clay court match over 3 weeks ago. So against Kova, Kova came out and he was playing like a guy with nothing to lose, and that to me is a dangerous type of player. You don't want to play a guy that feels like he has nothing to lose. Kova was playing free. The backhand looked good. He was dictating a lot against Bublik. And, you got to give Bublik a lot of credit here. He was able to come back and wrestle this match away from Kova. Got it to a breaker. Kova had match points at 6-5 with Bublik serving to stay in the match. And a great win for Bublik to save those match points. I didn't think he played that well. I don't know if I want to say this was a great match from him, but he was able to do what he needed to. He targeted the Kova backhand, which we know is the weaker side. He's been working on it a lot, trying to take the ball early, trying to put a little bit more pressure on his opponents because it is a glaring weakness for him. And the tiebreaker was an extremely close affair, with Bublik able to get a tough 7-5 win in the breaker. I mean, a little bit of a devastating loss for Kova. This would have been an amazing opportunity, thinking you're out of the tournament, getting the call, uh, coming back and having a chance to win and make the round of 32 of a Masters series would have definitely helped the confidence there for him. But for me, I thought he played okay on the clay. I thought Bublik did exactly what he needed to do. He was a backboard towards the end of that match. He really just kind of threatened Kova to take this match from him. If Kova could take it, it would have been his. But Bublik just too strong from the baseline. Now looking at the head-to-head here for Bublik van de Zandschulp and Karen Khachanov, it is 1-1 here for these guys. First match was in 2021 in Melbourne, and this looks like maybe this is the Great Ocean Road Open. Not sure what that is. Maybe that was a COVID tune-up tournament. And Khachanov was able to win 6-7, 7-5, 6-3 in the quarterfinals. Then Bublik able to get his revenge in Dubai in 2023, winning 7-5, 6-2 in the first round. Khachanov's coming in. He's 2-3 on the clay, 9-6 last year, 8-4 the year before. His two wins coming against Adam Walton, not a great clay quarter, and Shevchenko today. Van de Zandschulp, on the other hand, 6-2 on the clay, 11-10 last year, 16-12 the year before. His two losses coming against Cerundolo, 6-3, 6-0, was a little bit of a shocker there. And then in Bucharest, he lost a tough match to Navoni, where I believe he did have match points in that second set to advance. And honestly, in my opinion, I think he would have won the final if he had advanced as well. This match is going to be tricky for me. You know, guys, you look at this draw. Khachanov, Bublik van de Zandschulp, Humbert, and Prizmic. This is wide open. This is why I keep saying, and we'll talk about this in a second when we look at the full draw. What an opportunity for Musetti. I just feel like, down in my bones, I feel like he's going to blow this opportunity. This is a huge opportunity for him to get out to a semifinal. But something's just telling me that's probably going to be either Prizmic with a big surprise or Lehecka or Cerundolo. Maybe an opportunity, too, for Casper Ruud, having that early loss in Madrid, coming in as the defending champ. Might be an opportunity there. But anyways, back to this matchup here, guys. I'm taking Bublik van de Zandschulp. I can't trust Karen Khachanov on the clay just yet. You look at his two wins are against non-clay quarters. His three losses are to Rinderknecht, who has played decent on the clay, Carabelli, who we know loves the clay, but that should be a match that Khachanov is winning, at least taking a set. He lost 6-3, 6-4, and then Menchik 6-4, 7-6, and that was a promising match where Khachanov was able to come back and really push the issue in the breaker. But I'm going to take Bublik van de Zandschulp to advance here. I am a little bit concerned. I've tried to look for the potential injury information from him. Haven't been able to find anything, but we do remember he withdrew from Madrid last minute. So a little bit concerned maybe about that. We'll see how his body holds up here. But for now, give me Bublik to advance in straights. And our next match is Humbert against Prizmic. Humbert able to get a nice win over Kopcheva. And guys, how many chances did Kopcheva have in that match to break, to do something? And he just was never really able to get anything started. Humbert doing a great job redirecting the shots, redirecting the attack of Kopcheva, and able to keep him on the defensive. We saw towards the end of the second set, Kopcheva really started to play way more defensive, and I think that allowed Humbert to, one, open the court up, but two, also start to impose the net game a little bit, which we know he's pretty solid at. So that just spelled absolute disaster for Kopcheva in that second set. I'm a little bit disappointed. Obviously, we had him picked, and there was nothing really indicating to me that Humbert was going to be able to pull it off at least this easily. And he played pretty well on the clay. I was impressed. I didn't think Kopcheva played that bad. I think Humbert just outplayed him tremendously. So a nice win for Humbert to get through 6-3, 6-2. And the next match has to be the upset of the tournament. Dino Prizmic taking out Novak Djokovic. We talked yesterday or a couple of days ago about what could we expect from Novak Djokovic. We haven't seen him since Indian Wells, where he lost a tough three-setter to Jack Draper. What could we expect for him? And he comes out, wins the first set 6-2, and it feels like everything is right in the world for him. It looks like it's going to be a straightforward match. But then we see Dino raise his level a little bit and start to play a lot more aggressive. I think he realized too that, well, honestly, I gotta attribute a lot of that first serve though, the poor play from Dino to the nerves. This is a guy that was his hero when he was growing up, and it's so tough to play somebody like that for the first time, and you're on the center court of the tournament. Prizmic able to turn it around and get a 6-2 second set, and then in the third set, we saw the speed and the power of Dino Prizmic against Djokovic, and everything was very impressive. I mean, from the drop shots to the pace of the forehand, to him being able to get a lot of the counter punching of Djokovic, he's able to track a lot more shots down Prizmic and just frustrate Novak a lot. Prizmic able to get the win 6-4. It definitely helped. He ended the match on an ace, but it definitely helped him to have that serve in some key moments where you're able to get either an ace or serve +1 in some of those bigger pressure points. But a great win for Prizmic. He has back-to-back top 10 wins. He beat Shelton last week. Now he beat Djokovic. This has been an amazing clay court season for him. And guys, this next gen players, they are just coming. They are present right now. So extremely impressive win for Prizmic. He takes on Humbert now. And head-to-head is 0-0. These guys have never met before. This is definitely going to be an interesting match. I really do have to give Humbert credit. I thought he played a very solid match against Khachanov to get the win. Prizmic coming in, he's 18-5 on the clay, 23-6 last year, 4-5 the year before. Humbert, on the other hand, is 2-2 on the clay, 2-5 last year, 5-7 the year before. Humbert's 2 wins coming against Khachanov in this tournament and Kwame in Monte Carlo. He lost to Sinner 6-3, 6-0, and Terence Ottman 7-6, 7-6 in Madrid. Prizmic, on the other hand, he's only suffered 5 losses, able to get through the qualifying of this tournament, beating Rodash and Bondioli, Fuchsovics, and now taking out Novak Djokovic. Prizmic coming off a third-round appearance in Madrid and a loss to Echeverry. But as we mentioned before, he was able to notch a nice win over Ben Shelton and Matteo Berrettini on the clay in Madrid. Guys, this is going to be a really tough match for me to pick. I got to go with Prizmic. The one thing that worries me the most is the letdown spot here. He just had the match win of his life. Is he going to be able to go in and refocus and be ready for a guy like Humbert? I don't know. I think this is a very big test. We talked about this test earlier in the year with Jodar being able to kind of follow up and get consistent tournament results. But in this case, guys, I'm staying with Prizmic. I love the forehand. I love the speed. I love his serve. So I think he's going to make a big dent here. I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Humbert. Give me Prizmic to advance in straight sets. Here's a look at Djokovic's quarter of the draw. And obviously Djokovic's quarter of the draw no more, with Prizmic winning there. And guys, as I mentioned earlier, this is a prime opportunity for Musetti to make a semifinal. Do I think he's going to? No. I picked Cerundolo for a reason, but I'm just saying this is a very prime opportunity for a guy like him to kind of get the clay season going, get the wheels going again, especially heading in to Roland Garros. I have this nagging feeling that Prizmic is going to be able to make it out to a quarterfinal here. Obviously, he's only a couple wins away from it, and it would take a little bit of a superhuman effort. I think he's going to have a tough match against Humbert, and then probably a tough one against Bublik. Once he gets to the quarterfinal, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him against Cerundolo or Lehecka. I'd probably see Lehecka coming out of this quarter here. Big time opportunity here. I think even if Lehecka plays Musetti, he's going to be able to get that win again. So give me Lehecka to advance out of this quarter. Let's take a look at the next part of the draw. First match we have is Arnaldi against Jodar, and what a win for Arnaldi. 4-6, 7-6, 6-4 over Alex de Minaur. And yeah, I know the Prizmic win was an extremely impressive win, but this match was very fun to watch. There were a lot of solid clay court points here, and unfortunately, it just feels like de Minaur just can't get it done against a lot of these players, a lot of these clay court players. On surfaces like this, so he's gonna have to go back to the drawing board and figure it out before the French Open. But Arnaldi winning this is such a good example of a guy who was able to gain a little bit of confidence, even though it was only through the challenger level. But this was good enough for him to just really start to understand and trust his game a little bit more. Got 5 wins in that Cagliari Challenger, and it really is paying off, paying dividends with him reaching the round of 32, beating Alex de Minaur. Jodar had a tough match against Borges, and I think today Jodar really felt the difference in court speed from Madrid now over to Rome. Court's not moving as fast as it was in Madrid, and Jodar, it looked like, was trying to maybe force the issue a little bit too much in that first set. Borges did have a break in the first, I believe. So this was a pretty tricky match for him going through this, but he eventually started to find his footing, open the court up a little bit, able to rip that forehand. Pretty good stuff from Jodar. After being able to make some adjustments on this court, that forehand is still massive, even though the court isn't moving as fast. So Jodar advances 7-6, 6-4. Now, looking at this matchup here, guys, there is no head-to-head. This is going to be these guys' first meeting. We have Jodar coming in. He's 13-2 on the clay this year, 3-1 last year, 6-4 the year before. His 2 losses coming to Jannik Sinner, who is still undefeated on the clay, and Arthur Fils, who only has 1 loss on the clay, and that loss is to Jannik Sinner. So it's taken a very strong player to dismiss Jodar. Do I think Arnaldi's going to be able to do it? Not particularly. Arnaldi is coming in. He's 8-5 on the clay, 7-6 last year, 10-9 the year before. Able to get a 3-set win over Minaur, and now a 3-set win over de Minaur. He hasn't lost since Madrid, where he lost in 3 sets to Lajovic in the first round of the qualifiers. So Arnaldi right now is riding a 7-match winning streak. Now, guys, think about that. A 7-match winning streak, he's 8-5. So before this, he was 1-5. Talk about turning around your clay season. Impressive stuff from Arnaldi. Is he going to be able to challenge a guy like Jodar? I really don't think so. It would shock me if Arnaldi even took a set here. I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward match. I think Jodar, it took him a little bit to kind of get used to the pace of the court and how it was much slower. I think he's going to be ready to go from the start against Arnaldi. So I got to pick Jodar here, guys. Give me Jodar to advance in straight sets. Our next match is Tien against Bublik, and this should be a pretty fun one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get eyes on either of these matches, but both of them very straightforward, and both guys only dropping 3 games here. Tien able to beat Jumer 6-2, 6-1, and Bublik able to beat Baez 6-1, 6-2. I would say the Bublik result against Baez was a little bit more eye-opening for me. One, to maybe Baez not playing well enough, but also maybe Bublik's ready to go. So Alexander Bublik, he came to Rome almost a week ago to start training here, and I think that really shows one, he wants to get in a routine, but 2, he's taking this very seriously. He has not been happy with the way that he's been playing. So getting here to Rome early to start your training on the clay is definitely going to help. He did reference in one of his interviews that he had a wrist injury, or that his wrist was bothering him a little bit in those matches, those losses that he had. I believe he lost to Molchan, and then he lost in Munich. So there, that's something that we can keep in mind. Maybe he wasn't at full health, wasn't fully open about that. Good on him, especially giving the respect to the opponent. But he did say the wrist wasn't feeling 100% in those matches. Now it's feeling much better. He's been training very hard in Rome, and I think this is a match that's going to be pretty interesting. We have Lerner Tien, and talking about his training schedule, he lost early in Madrid and went right back to the United States to train with Tommy Paul and Francis Tiafoe. He did not stay in Europe. Now we got to see how we think that's going to pan out here for Lerner. Is that going to be something good? Is it nice to be home in the States, or should he have stayed here and started to train a little bit harder? One last thing that I want to factor in here for you guys is the fact that these two guys were practice partners in Madrid. So, yes, they don't have a head to head here, but there is a little bit of familiarity between the two. So I don't think we're going to see much of a break-in period here from either of these guys. We have Bublik. He's coming in at 3-3 on the clay. 23-6 last year, 5-6 the year before. Remember, last year was his big breakout on the clay surface, and we did expect there to be a little bit of regression, but I didn't expect it to be, this bad. He looked pretty solid against in Monte Carlo, beating Monfils, beating Lehecka, and then losing it straight to Carlos, and that was a little bit surprising. They had never played before, and it was a 6-3, 6-0 loss to Carlos Alcaraz in Monte Carlo, and I think he really has to wake up a little bit more to play those guys. I think it's extremely important, that he figure out how to beat some of these guys, especially if he wants to make some dents in Grand Slams. He goes to Munich and loses to Molchan, and then goes to Madrid and loses to Tsitsipas. He gave a lot of credit to Tsitsipas, but he did say his wrist did not feel like it was 100% against either Molchan or Tsitsipas. And the Molchan one for sure, you could tell he was bothered by something. We weren't sure what it was. It looked like he honestly didn't even want to be there. Lerner Tien, on the other hand, he's coming in 2-2 on the clay, 3-7 last year, 0-1 the year before. His two wins coming against Basaveretti, who is a challenger player, and then this today against Jumer. So maybe going back to the States might have helped him a little bit here. His two losses to Barachaga, who we know has a very good record on the clay, and then Vallejo in Madrid. This is a tricky matchup here, guys. I am going to lean towards Bublik. I trust that, if he's feeling 100%, maybe with that wrist injury, he wasn't feeling he wasn't playing that well. I think if we're seeing him at 100%, he's feeling confident with his serve. I think he's going to play really well. I think he can take out Lerner Tien. Lerner Tien, not too much comfort on the clay. He's only played 21 matches on the clay, which is very, very few. So give me Bublik to advance in straight sets. Our next match is Tommy Paul taking on Luciano Darderi, and Paul able to get through Vukic 6-4, 6-2. This was a good win for him. Obviously, Vukic not playing the best of tennis, but Paul able to get an early break, kind of ride that out straight through to a 6-4 set. He had a ton of chances to break again. He was really putting a lot of pressure on the Vukic second serve, which we like to see. Not able to convert any of those break chances other than the one that he got early on but able to convert a couple more break chances in the second set to win 6-2. So I really like the way that Paul was moving. I love the way that he uses his all-around game. And we talked about Tommy Paul went back to the States after that loss to Toronto in Madrid. He went back to the States, trained with Lerner Tien, trained with Francis Tiafoe. Now he's flown back to Europe to see if he can get things going a little bit. I think it's always good to maybe try a little bit of just adjustments maybe to see what works and what doesn't. Both Lerner and Tommy Paul were looking to maybe change it up a little bit. They didn't want to stay there. Obviously, you got a guy like Bublik who's been training in Rome since last week. But Tommy Paul going home, he said he really enjoyed that. Now he's back. He should be ready to go. Nice win over Vukic. Let's see how he does against Darderi. Darderi able to come through against Hanfman, and these matches some of them were delayed. This match kind of went on a little bit later than it was supposed to, and you gotta love the commitment and doggedness of Darderi to just come out. Yeah, okay, we were delayed a little bit. You're waiting around all day for this match. But Darderi comes out hyper focused. He gets an early break against Hanfman, and I feel like that gave him so much confidence in this match. We saw the speed of Darderi. We saw the power of him. This, to me, was probably the most complete match I've seen him play this year. So that's a promising start for Darderi, especially after the previous losses. Straight set loss to Cerundolo in Madrid, a 3-set loss to Kopchiva in Munich, and then a 3-set loss to Hurkacz in Monte Carlo. So he knows he's capable of doing a lot better. Let's take a look at this matchup here. Paul against Darderi. We got Darderi coming in. He's 11-6 on the clay this year, 30-11 last year, 34-15 on the clay the year before. Tommy Paul, on the other hand, is 6-1 on the clay, 12-4 last year, 10-4 the year before. He's been playing some pretty solid clay court tennis, but it always feels like he flies a little bit under the radar, not in the discussion with some of these top guys on the clay. But Tommy, I feel like, is one of the better clay quarters, one of the better American clay quarters that there are. This is a really tricky match for me. Head to head here, these guys have played twice. It's 2-0 for Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul able to get a win in the Paris Olympics, 6-3, 6-4 on the clay in Roland Garros. And then Tommy Paul also able to get a win in Montreal, 6-4, 7-6 in the first round. And this is a very tricky matchup here, guys. I gotta favor Tommy Paul here. 6-1 on the clay. He's able to run it through and beat all comers to advance. And win in Houston. And guys, that final match against Burruchaga was extremely impressive stuff from Tommy Paul. Burruchaga was just a wall. He had opportunities to potentially win that match, but Paul was able to just be too tough, and we've seen a lot of tough out matches from Tommy Paul here, including that Burruchaga match, but also the Francis Tiafoe 3-setter ending 9-7 in the breaker in favor of Tommy Paul. So I'm really liking Paul here. I gotta go with him. I feel like Darderi, if he can play his top-notch clay court tennis, he's definitely going to give Paul tons of problems. But I feel like Paul has been the more consistent one. He is a little bit under the radar on the clay. So give me Tommy Paul. I think he advances in 3 sets. And this next one, guys, I'm going to be pretty quick about. Zverev against Alexander Blockx. Blockx getting a nice win over Griekspoor in 3. Zverev getting a tough out win against Altmaier in straights. And we just saw this match in Madrid with a 6-2, 7-5 win for Zverev in the semifinals. If this was a first-round match, maybe I'd be a little bit more nervous, just given the fact that Zverev hasn't played a match on these courts. But now that we're looking at a round of 32 match, I'm going to go with Zverev again, guys. I thought it was pretty clear. Look, I get it. We talk about the revenge factor. We talk about, maybe Blockx can take another set. But for me, there's levels to this sport, and it just looked like in that match, Zverev was on a different level. Now, if he comes and he serves a little bit poorly, and Blockx is able to up that return a little bit, yeah, this could be a little bit complicated for Zverev, but I was just impressed with what we saw. He used the drop shot so well against Blockx. He was roping the backhands and able to move the forehand around a lot. And he just kept Blockx uncomfortable the entire match. I think we're going to see more of the same. We know Zverev is an absolutely smart tennis player. He knows what to do here. He's going to implement the same game plan. We'll see if Blockx can make any adjustments, but for me, I think this is Zverev or nothing. So give me Alexander Zverev to advance again in straight sets. And here's a look at Zverev's quarter of the draw with my round of 16 picks. I like Zverev a lot here. I would love to see that Zverev Jodar quarterfinal. That's going to be a blockbuster match. If Jodar was on a little bit of a faster surface, I think I would be a little bit nervous. But the fact that I watched Borges able to just get every ball that Jodar was roping back worries me a little bit with how Jodar is going to be able to do in this tournament and how slow the clay is this year in Rome. I want to see one more match from Zverev. I want to see him take out Blockx again easily. And then if he has to play Tommy Paul, that's going to be a tricky matchup for him. But I got to favor Zverev to get through this quarter. So, I think he's going to get out into the semifinals here for Zverev. Are we going to see another Sinner-Zverev final? Potentially. But for now, guys, I'm going to favor Zverev. Let's see if I still favor him after watching the round of 32 matches. Let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. And here's a look at our second round records. 11-4 for me, so pretty happy about that. But there were a lot of favorites that won today. I remember messaging in the comments, I didn't think there were going to be a lot of upsets today, but we did see a couple. Obviously, two huge ones over two top 10 players, but overall a very straightforward second round for us. I think we're going to see a little bit of a mix-up here in the third round for sure. So that's where we'll see a lot of these upsets. Pamplemousse 12-2 in the picks. So extremely good bounce back from Pamplemousse. Not a great first round from the Pamplemousse, but able to bounce back and go 12-2 today. Very impressive stuff. Hopefully we can keep this up for the next part of the second round. And as always, guys, thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. We have another video out on the French Open previewing the tournament in Roland Garros. So definitely check that out to keep up on everything tennis. We will have videos out every single day recapping the round that occurred and looking at some picks for the next few days. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.